Sustainability is one of those key core 3 pillars. It's absolutely integral to our strategy.
Welcome back to Infrastructure Connections. Today we're speaking with Alexandra Monson, and she's going to help us answer 3 questions. How does sustainability provide value creation for corporate governance? How do you encourage and reward innovation? And how can an organization create cohesive social value? Alexandra Monson is Group Manager Sustainability at Ventia. With over 20 years' experience in environmental and sustainability management, spanning infrastructure services, transport, and construction, Alex leads sustainability strategy, decarbonization planning, target setting, and reporting. Alex is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, a Rhodes Australia Fellow, and delivered Ventia's first IS operations rating. Well, hello, welcome to the show.
Thanks, good to talk with you today.
Thanks for being on. So going back through your career, you've been in sustainability a long time. Was there a point where you started to see an interest in it? And was there an aha moment or something that really started it, or has it been there all along?
Well, probably not an aha moment. I think really just such a long time back at school, really an appreciation for the natural world, but also a curiosity for how humankind can impact the environment. Just started that desire to want to work in an environmental field, looking at the impact that we have. And I think really it's just sort of a natural progression from there into sustainability and the broader impact, think about environment and social more broadly.
That's great. Well, you had the pleasure of being on the IS-rated operations project, and you are an ISAP. So what's kind of been your experience? How do you think sustainability ratings add value to what Ventia does?
Clearly on the contract that's delivering a rating, there's the ability through the things the rating encourages the team to look at and drive innovation, sustainability outcomes that are auditable for the contract itself. There is a strengthening the advantage, I think, of how we can talk and back ourselves up around sustainability to the market. But really, fundamentally, it's about how do we can use the rating to embed sustainability principles in terms of how we do our day-to-day work on that contract and beyond, driving that whole of life value through productivity, risk reduction, and the outcomes that we generate. And I think the first time I delivered that with the team on a contract, it all sort of fell together quite well to see how the rating brings those things together. And of course, then with that ability, that robustness of having that independent, trusted assurance around the capability in that space is a really powerful thing.
Would you say sustainability is now integrated into what Ventia does as a company?
It's absolutely integral to our strategy. So yes, being integrated in how we perceive ourselves, what's important to us, our values and how we deliver our work. When you look at our enterprise-wide strategy, our pillars there for how we deliver what we do and create value for our stakeholders, sustainability is one of those key core 3 pillars, along with our customer focus and innovation. And of course, they're also inextricably linked in terms of meeting what our customers' expectations are around sustainability and using innovation in that as well. So they work together really, really nicely.
I did notice that your sustainability report has been actually integrated into your financial annual report. That was about 2 years ago. What instigated that change, and how has that helped sustainability become more of a focus for the corporation, for the organization?
And we started in 2021 with a standalone sustainability report. And that was a new thing for the organization to do, to talk about the good work that we do environmentally and around social as well, and how we bring that together from a sort of a governance framework, and back that up with examples and case studies from across the business, how we bring that to life. And that was really important. But then so a couple of years ago, as you mentioned, so 2024, we took the decision to integrate into a combined annual report. I mean, one of the benefits is then sustainability isn't a bolt-on or a side thing over there that you can go and look at in a separate report if that interests you. So it really brings that into the core document, which means it's part of core corporate governance then. So you've got the governance over the whole integrated report. So it strengthens accountability and transparency. And one of the nice things that we're able to do then, having it integrate in that way, is be really clear about how sustainability sits within our value creation model and how we do create value through the work that we do every day for our stakeholders. So it was really nice to explore that in that way through the report. And I hope it comes across in that way.
Yeah, it's just refreshing to hear sustainability called value creation for a project and for an organization. So that's good to hear, and especially to hear it integrated into the governance structure. You've been very involved in the Ventia's climate transition plan and net zero ambitions. So tell us a bit about that and how that filtered into the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it's the first time now there's a requirement for organizations to disclose the information around the transition plan. But more importantly, I think it's the shift that we're seeing to not just talking about emissions and impact on the environment, but really integrating what's the impact on the business, how resilient is the business, and how are we considering climate in relation to the ongoing growth and resilience of the organization. And really articulating what does transition look like for Ventia. And so we have two pillars in our transition plan. One is around building resilience and the other is around decarbonising our operations. But we set a couple of years ago now some bold emissions reductions targets through the Science-Based Targets Initiative. So for our direct emissions, our 1 and 2, so the fuels that we use and the electricity that we buy, we've committed to a 42% reduction, full reduction, absolute reduction by 2030.
Wow.
So that's not offsetting, that's reducing those emissions from a 2021 base year, and then a net zero target by 2050. And what's interesting with that one is that's across all of our value chain emissions. So our scope 3 emissions that we count for that target. So that's our supply chain. And that's more than 90% of our total emissions is through that supply chain. Things like sourcing renewable electricity in our offices and our depots. I think at the end of 2025, just over 31% renewables procured. Transitioning our fleet. And so far, I'm really pleased to say that from our baseline, we've reduced over 22% from our baseline. While in that period, we've grown considerably as a business in the nature and the types of work that we do. So our teams can be really proud, but of course, there's always a lot more to do.
That's fantastic. And one of the things I've noticed doing the IS operations ratings with Ventia has just been the innovation that's coming out of Ventia as a whole. One of the ones that always impressed me the most was the sensors that are being placed on vehicles to identify potholes and cracks in the road as they form faster than a human inspection would. And then also using AI to connect those repairs that need to be done so that they can be clustered rather than spread out the repair crews across a whole wide area and wasting time in transport. So can you talk about some of those innovations that Ventia is working on and what's exciting about them?
You're all across these. It's great. And that's really is just the tip of the iceberg with some of the things that we do. But they are really good examples of how the teams will identify what's the application of technology to do things better. Of course, looking after the network, finding out when things are deteriorating, and then how do you respond to that? Historically, that has tended to be more reactive, which can be resource intensive, more likely to disrupt road users and the like. So, of course, having better information and being proactive has lots of benefits. So using the computer vision on vehicles that are traveling the network, much more efficient than a human eye. What is good, it's not just sensors just bringing information and that's it. It's how it's then used and using the algorithms, the technology there to track any defect over time, re-rate the condition, can capture in the subsequent inspections how it's tracking. We can then refine and make some predictions around how it's going to perform over time and react into our plans. And then that additional overlay, then thinking about sort of your spatial techniques, like how do you then cluster those? So how do you plan your works to do, you're not just doing one and then you're going over here and then you're going over there. You're actually responding in a coordinated, well-planned way. From what could be quite a simple maintenance task, inspecting, recording defects, responding to it, is actually just using technology better for a much better outcome overall. So it's really quite encouraging.
It is encouraging. And how would you use those operational sustainability concepts on using this new technology on newer essential infrastructure modules, such as data centers or other up-and-coming infrastructure?
It's hard to have any conversation about technology and AI and how essential it is to deliver efficiency improvements in all of our day-to-day lives, and very much so when we're talking about managing infrastructure, that we need data centers to do that. And having them onshore, the data and sovereign, it's safe to have our data onshore, is really going to be essential for the future. So there's no getting away from that. But then how do we have a really integrated approach using some of these learnings from the other sectors, so that we can manage power, cooling controls, really insights into how we manage workforce and planning and design for all these centres, and certainly their ongoing maintenance life. So I think, because a lot of the focus I hear around data centres is sort of on the construction and low carbon as it's built, but we know through our experience with other assets that actually how you plan and set them up for operations is where you'll get really efficient life cycle benefits across these data centers, there'll be more and more of them starting up.
How do you think that AI is going to change that sustainability work?
Oh gosh, in so many different ways. It'll supercharge what our amazing sustainability professionals are able to do. And all of us. So I think there's the ways that many of us already starting to use to get efficiencies into what we do now. And that shouldn't be underrated. That's huge. We can do things faster than ever before, get more insights into things. But then using that similarly to that road defect information, having then the data there to have some predictive foresight into what may happen, and then prescribing and then what can we do and what should we do. If just looking at the sustainability profession and people as well in terms of what can we use now, and sort of that sort of first phase in our day-to-day, really getting access to data better. Think about supply chain information. Like how do we pool information, use AI to actually read information, predict, thinking about that scale of that scope 3, that supply chain emissions challenge that many of us have got. How do we use AI to actually provide insights and ways to do things better there? So I do think other than the data-driven decision-making, using that predictive, preventive sort of insights, then really empowering faster innovation, and that we as sustainability people can leverage all of these, but particularly I think around the supply chain sustainability.
How does Ventia encourage that kind of innovative thinking?
We have a really exciting sort of internal platform called VenSpark for our innovation ideas, where anyone in the organisation can pop in ideas, and people get in and rate and comment, and it's a really interactive. We just launched that last year, so all innovations can come through. What I love is, because sustainability is one of our pillars, any idea goes through, people can sort of allocate, well, this idea supports innovation, it supports sustainability. So there's that way for any ideas to come up through that can really drive sustainability outcomes there. And then we have other opportunities as well. Annually, we have our Ventia awards that are really exciting. So we have award submissions in different categories, sustainability being one of them, innovation being another as well. And so that's a really exciting recognition for those who really are going above and beyond and, pushing the envelope with some really cool innovations. I'm really excited when we'll be able to share some of the sustainability winners from this year, because they're fantastic. That's one of the ways that we share the stories, because that really is the way that you encourage more, by showing the benefit for, and not just in terms of it's a nice to have, we've got a nice fairy benefit over here that's sustainability, but how it drove efficiency improvement, cost savings, safety benefits, social outcomes. Like, what are all the other ways that the other benefits that come out through this innovation? You share that, other people will be more likely to implement their own innovations too.
That's one of the things I've always been impressed with by Ventia. In a world where sustainability is often treated as IP and innovations are treated as IP, Ventia has been very good about making sure to publish those innovations in sustainability. I know Ventia has a case studies section of their website. What other ways does Ventia really reach out to the industry and do that knowledge share?
Yes, so the website is a really good knowledge source of those case studies, and really keen to share the stories of what's done well. We do like to share through industry forums as well. So, for example, the ISE Connect conference, over the years, we've had a number of presentations through that conference, and other industry associations as well, and partnerships. Ventia is a member of the Climate Leaders Coalition, so we like to get involved in initiatives through that coalition, through the Social Value Task Force as well. It's a really important way to keep I suppose a close finger on the pulse of what's happening, what's moving, bring insights that we have, but of course bring other insights in and learn from others as well.
The other aspect of Ventia does very well is the social values. What's important about social values that makes it such a focus for Ventia?
It all comes down to, I suppose, our purpose of making infrastructure work for our communities. So it's fundamental to who we are as an organisation. So when we define social value as the overall positive impact that's created for people and communities, and so it's a result of the things that we do. So that positive impact through the work that we do. And so how do we demonstrate that? And then how can we measure the social value that we create? So therefore, how can we then learn from that and create more? Because that's part of what drives us and our teams. So our approach, it looks at different areas around social value and the work that we do. So across work, economy, community, First Nations, and planet. And then how do we bring that together and measure social value to then be able to share in our annual report and through other ways, and importantly with our customers. So they know obviously the work that we do for them on their asset. This is through working with Ventia, this is what we've been able to do together with them to create social value. I mean, it's an important criteria of any of the projects that we do, whether they are private or public customers that we're working for, is understanding the benefit. Every type of infrastructure that we look after has a purpose, users, and they're generally the public, whether it's travelling public on the road, us at home using our digital technology at home. If someone's maintaining that infrastructure, it's for people. And so the outcomes, a positive outcome, should be for people as well. And we see that coming through more in the criteria for these projects. So it's really important to be able to measure it, to demonstrate how the approach of how we perform that work, our approach to procurement, who our supply partners are, and the reach and the impact that they have, how that can come together for the benefit.
You're right that infrastructure delivery relies on these connections across clients and proponents and contractors and suppliers. And where do you see the biggest sustainability capability gaps across that ecosystem, and how is Ventia helping to close them in a practical way?
Capability, it's such an interesting question. I think an important way of that measurement is through the Australian TOMS, which is themes and outcomes and measures, to be able to get that information and measure it together. But in terms of the knowledge and the capability, led to our joining the Supply Chain Sustainability School last year. And we joined as a partner, not just as a participant, but thought it was really important to reinvigorate that. Well, there's really good training out there, including with the ISE for sustainability professionals, leaders and others in sustainability. This is an opportunity through the school to provide lots of, I suppose, even playing field information for all kinds of suppliers, and it provides it free through that platform. So through partners like Ventia, We provide training modules, videos, content to explain something like emissions and carbon, what's important, social value, providing that information, what is it, and what are ways that you can understand and uplift social value and what you do, providing free resources essentially for uplift and knowledge across a whole range of sustainability topics is really important.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have to look into the supply chain sustainability school. You've spoken about how everyone can actually contribute to sustainability without having sustainability as part of their job title. And we see that throughout large industries that are very sustainability focused. I recently read a great book called Your Job is a Climate Job by Ryan Philp along the same lines. And how do you encourage people in Ventia and even people outside of Ventia, such as the supply chain school, to forward sustainability objectives internally?
Yeah, I really like that framing that really every job is the climate job, whether people think about it or not. And it does reflect what we see. When we think about some of the innovations that we've spoken about today, they weren't necessarily all driven or implemented by sustainability people. We're thinking about those sensors and that technology application. And we've got engineers, project managers, work teams who really understand what they do really well and are looking for improvements, efficiencies, and what they do. They're doing great sustainability work, whether they think about it or like that or not. And I think one of the ways that I encourage and emphasize sustainability, again, it gets back to that being core to our values and our strategy. So it's not an add-on. It's not, well, we do what we're there to do every day, and then if we've got any time, we'll do some sustainability stuff after. It's fundamental. The work that you're doing, where you're looking to do things better and save money and be really efficient and add value to our customer and our communities and to that infrastructure. That's all about sustainability, and it's about a resilient business. It's about resilient infrastructure into the future, making sure it stays safe, reliable, accessible. All of those things is really important as well. But I guess like having it as strategy isn't enough. I'd love to say it is. We say it's my strategy and therefore we do it. But people will engage if it feels real to their role and therefore is core to what they're doing, and they see the value in that, and also recognize for when they've followed innovations, implemented things, made things better, that there's recognition of that is really important.
What's your best advice for people who want to do more work in sustainability, regardless of their current job title? How do they get started?
Yeah, I think my advice is to just think about the impact you can make where you are now. So really understanding your own job deeply, but being really curious about trends that are happening. Start asking different questions. So how does this decision or this thing affect risk over the long term? Is there a lower impact option? Is there a different product I can buy? What problem are we optimizing for here? What are we doing? And how can we increase social value and connectivity with what we're doing here? I think they're just some key questions that we could ask ourselves just periodically through, and particularly when it's a key decision, or do we go this or do we go with that? Just thinking, is there a sustainability aspect, something we can think about here? I think that will go quite a long way.
Just asking those sustainability questions is such a great place to start, regardless of what that role is. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate getting a window into what Ventia does in the sustainability space. It's been really illuminating for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to another episode of Infrastructure Connections. Please take a moment to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and we want to know what you think. Leave a message in the comments down below or give us a ring at the Infrastructure Sustainability Council. Stay tuned for the next episode of Infrastructure Connections.